What are we waiting for?
We scoping the place out, man. We ain't gonna just run up in there. That's how you get shot.
Say that again. You wow. Ooh. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely
You
not.
don't know nothing about no war.
Everybody knows war. Yeah. What it is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Good God, you all.
It ain't you all, it's y'all.
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 Man, you sound like a karate movie. Y'all.
Y'all.
Say it from right here with some soul. Y'all.
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 Let me show your goofy ass how to do this. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Come
Giants fans, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the New York Giants Rush 2024 Draft Show. We appreciate everybody who's been tuning in every single week on Sunday nights. We've been going over every position group. Want to thank you because I know we only have a few shows left before the 2024 NFL Draft. Tonight, we're joined by special guest, Craig. What's going on?
What's up, man?
I mean, you're a special guest, but this is also your own platform. You've owned for a decade, and I only came on later.
It's only good, dude. I'm just a guest here. You're running the show. I'm hanging out, talking football.
There we go. That sounds good. But Craig, I mean, you are always here for the tight ends. We make this an annual event. You love the tight end position. Underrated. You and I both agree on that. And so we get excited talking about this one. So again, thank you for coming on for this.
Yeah, man. Tight ends are my jam.
Hell yeah. All right. And then also we got the Truth. Truth, what's going on, man?
What's up, boys?
Hey, not much. It's good to have all of us together. And, we do the draft show. Obviously, it's a blast. Love doing the draft and whatnot. But the only problem is it becomes tough because we don't align for the regular New York Giants Rush show, the three of us. So this is it's not a very common occurrence. So I'm very happy we have this ability to talk tight ends.
Love tight ends.
Yes, sir.
The Giants were built on tight ends. I mean,
yeah.
Bavaro, Shockey, Boss, Ballard, always had great tight ends.
What about
Maybe
Bob
not
Tucker?
Tucker.
You gotta go
Yeah,
back.
dude. Listen, Tucker's like a whole it's not even modern football. I wasn't even born.
What years did he play? Was he in the 70s for the Giants? He was like one of the good players.
He was. He was in the 60s and 70s, and he had another kid. Another guy before him had a couple of good years with the Giants. Can't remember his name. Played with Tarkenton. I can't remember his name.
There was Gary Shirk also.
No, that's a name from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny. I mean, the whole storyline of the Giants tight ends, right? And of course, when we talk about these players, it's agnostic about the Giants, but it's hard not to bring them into it, especially when we get to the later rounds and we're dealing with the position that the Giants need, right? And of course, if there's talent available at this spot, I can imagine the Giants getting one. But it was a big story during the 2007 NFL season when Shockey went down and Boss came in, and Boss did a hell of a job covering for Shockey, and he actually was a very formidable player, not just a Band-Aid out there. And he had the longest play of the Super Bowl that night in Super Bowl 42, right? He holds down the fort for 4 years. He was cut after 2010, which was a bit of a shame. I wish he stayed a little bit longer.
Truth, when we interviewed Kevin Boss, he said he was literally getting on the airplane for Oakland, waiting for Jerry Reese to send him a deal. He did not want to leave. He was literally checking his phone, calling his agent on the way to Oakland, being like, please just let the Giants send me a deal. And he said, clearly, I'll play for less to come back to play for the Giants.
Yeah, didn't Chase Blackburn talked about that too? Like that whole Reese was a penny pincher and moved on from guys pretty quickly. He's not the first guy to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of made it sound like that. He had it in for him. Reese had it in for him.
And then Bollard and Jake Bollard and Travis Beckham, right?
Poor guy blew his knee in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
What a find he was, huh? Jake Bauer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we interviewed him. Great guy.
Yeah. They all kind of look the same there, too, that whole 3 stretch, right? It's like between Boss, Beckham, and Bollard, it's all like, short, buzz cut, blonde hair dudes. Like they kind of went, and they all, Big Ten kind of had the same mold there. Not Boss, sorry. I think he was an Oregon State player. Or a small school out there. But anyway, tight ends, in my opinion, they are the most underrated position. The reason I say that is because if you look at a team, people always say that Mahomes and Brady didn't have true wide receiver ones. That's BS because they had Gronkowski and Kelsey. And if you ask me, they're just as good as wide receiver ones, with the difference being they're so big, it's really hard for a cornerback to cover those dudes. Yep. Meanwhile, they are also so fast, it's difficult for the linebackers to cover them, right? So at the very best, if you have an elite tight end, I mean, you are in really good shape out there to have a winning football team.
Especially in today's modern football, these guys are like an extension of the wide receiver room.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you go to like the next level down, more of like a boss guy or something like that, where it's still bringing value to the team. That's generally what you can expect when you try to draft one, right? And that's what we would hope for. So let's get right into it. We'll start. We got 15 dudes to go over tonight. Obviously that's quite a bit. So we're going to get down to guys that are probably going to go, much later in the draft, but, you pay attention to these guys because a lot of the mid-round picks of tight ends like Kelsey, are later in the draft. It's not like the top guys are always the best in the long run. So
Right.
That said, we are going to start. Truth, go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. I was going to say, keep in mind that we did sign 3 tight ends this last week and a half or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what Shane does, if he does draft a tight end or just maybe signs one UDFA one.
Yeah, right. So odds are, they're not going to go with Brock Bowers, but we got to start from the top and go from there. Craig, we're going to start with your guys right now. Tell me about Brock Bowers out of Georgia. He is the blue chip, right? He's going to, if he isn't the first tight end to go, it would be pretty damn surprising. So tell me about it. He's been contributing for the team for a couple of years.
Well, the interesting thing about Bowers is like he as a sophomore, if he came out early, nobody would have been surprised. That's how good this guy is. He is a prototypical NFL.
It's not. I don't think it's us. Truth.
Okay.
What's wrong?
Your
Wi-Fi kind of freezing
there. Oh. Close down those other tabs there, Craig.
Probably got like 20 of them open.
Oh yeah. Well, it's hard not to. You know which one always crashes too? I don't know if you've ever used the draft site, Walter Football or whatever. Have you ever gone on there?
I don't like that. It's too many pop-ups. I can't handle
so many pop-ups. Like they have so much good information there, but like my computer literally just takes a giant dump and just destroys itself every time I click on that thing.
Yeah.
Sucks. They'll have like big beefy articles about dudes that are going in the 7th round. It's like, oh, finally, what I'm looking for, and just bam, computer just turns off.
Yeah, I think what Craig was going to say about Bowers. He was so good as a sophomore. Actually, that was probably best year. He could have been able to play in the NFL in his sophomore year.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. He's like the next coming of Kelsey.
That's what I hope. But who was the dude with Atlanta that I always felt that like everyone kind of felt that was going to be the case with?
There he is.
Craig, you have yours?
Yeah, that was weird. Just like a quick hiccup there. What I was basically saying is Brock Bowers could have came out last year if he wanted to. He had such a dominant year as a sophomore. He's a typical, modern day tight end. He's Kelsey, he's Kittle wrapped up all in the one. And he is the blue chip, as you alluded to, right? He's potentially the only tight end that will be drafted in the first round.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked if someone took another tight end in the first round. He's going to, again, it's always hard to project how these guys are going to come out, right? But
Of course,
if you look at his body of work over the last 2 years, you're talking about 120 catches, 1,600 over 1,600 yards, 21 touchdowns. Like I said, this kid could have came out as a sophomore, right?
Why didn't he then? That's that you don't see that all that often now.
You're not allowed
unless
to,
you're
right?
around.
Isn't that
You only-
the rules of college
No,
football?
you can come out after 2 years.
I thought. Wait, did he redshirt his freshman year? You have to be in college or you have to be out of high school for 3 years is the rule, which means you have.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Let me see what
2000
age he is.
the 2022 year was definitely a little bit more dominating. 63 catches for 950 yards and 15 touchdowns last year.
Gotcha.
Right. This year almost got to those numbers: 56 catches, 714 yards, 6 touchdowns. He averages 13 yards a catch. Like, there's no reason why this guy doesn't slide in the NFL, become a starter from day one, and be, be the next Kittle. Be the next. Again, it's hard to say he's going to be the next Kelsey because that guy's basically had 7 years of 1,000 yards receiving. But whoever gets Bowers, like, this guy's the most pro ready there is. There's nothing stopping him from being, an elite tight end for a decade.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where he'll go, guys, but I can't see him being there past 15.
I got him to 15. I got him
DraftKings.
15,
So get ready for this. So DraftKings, it's fun paying attention because they obviously they have money waging on this, right? So they look into the analysis. They do a good job of indicating where people are likely going to end up. The most likely place for him to end up right now is the Jets, they're saying.
At 10?
Yeah. They're saying the Jets are probably going to take him.
They're probably saying it because the Jets just signed a tackle in free agency. Maybe that's why they made that claim.
Yeah, could be. And of course, things will change. I mean, if there's a trade or anything like that, but that's where they're trending him for.
Decent blocker, great hands, has just as, he's got great speed. I'm looking for his 40 now. I wrote it down. The interesting thing is, like I said, if he went to someone like the Jets, it's not a great fit for him, right? I mean, Rodgers has never been heavy tight end low. If Rodgers comes back healthy, he's never been a huge proponent of all-star tight ends, right? It's always wide receivers. He's going down the field with the ball, but as Rodgers won't be able to move around as well, it's not a bad spot for Rodgers. I don't know if it's great for his career. I could see him going to someplace like the Chargers. I could see him going someplace that, they need an offensive juggernaut, so to speak. No, There you go.
Hey, real quick. I mean, let's say the Vikings trade up to 4 and they take JJ. Just real quick scenario. Trade up and take JJ right at the 4th pick. Assume the top 3 guys teams all take quarterback. And then the Chargers get either, Bowers or Joe Alt, which they might. Then the Giants might have Marvin Harrison in their lap.
Let me tell you something. If that scenario happens, and Marvin Harrison's there at 5, I would think the Chargers taking Harrison over Bowers because they're not bringing back Williams, the wide receiver. That would make sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they drafted one last year. Didn't they get Quentin Williams or Quinn Johnson from TCU?
Yeah, but he hasn't really developed.
Really do anything, man.
Right.
I'm with you.
When you take a tight end in the first round, it's like you're ready to win, right? Teams that aren't ready to win they're going tackle, they're going quarterback, they're going wide receiver, they're going defensive end. If you're ready to win, you're more inclined to add a piece, right? I can't see a team in the top 10 taking him because, again, those teams are strapped for pass rushers, tackles, quarterbacks. You need those middle of the pack teams to get them from 7 wins to 10 wins or 8 wins to 11 wins. So, again, I know it's a BPA world, but
Pitts was the highest tight end I think taken. I mean, in many, many years, right? And he went to the Falcons. And I think he was taken at 7. So I'm with you, Greg.
Yeah, but he is, again, 6'4", 240 pounds. He's the most pro ready there is. He's definitely, he can play in line, but he's better spread out, right? Because he can go in motion or he can chip. But he makes all the catches. He's got the speed. And again, he's very mature for his age. I think he's a shoo-in for whoever picks him up. I have him, like Truth was alluding to, I have him going between 13 and 16, unless there's a move made. Somebody wants to come up for him. But again, he's the only blue chip first round tight end there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What about your next guy, Theo Johnson? Penn State produces some good tight ends.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is like Theo Johnson's been like on a lot of lists for top 5. He did really well in the combine.
Yeah.
Like he opened a bunch of eyes in the combine that shot him up the boards.
Which is critical for this position, I think, especially because these tight ends depend on their offense. I'm going to go over one guy that, got crapped on by their team, but you're totally right. Like, this is one where you want the combine to really assess these guys.
So here's the interesting about Theo, why I put him at my number 2 is he's 6'6". He's 259 pounds, and he ran a 4.5. Okay. And if you want to nail it exactly, it's closer to a 4.6, but he ran a 4.57. Okay. He's a big man. And guess what? Penn State doesn't throw him the ball enough, right?
Right.
He's very good.
A lot of these guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So when we break him down a little bit, he's really good at finding the soft spot in the offense, right? I watched him against Iowa, and let me tell you, when he gets the ball, Iowa always has a very strong, hard-hitting defense.
Oh, best. One of the best in football.
They bombed Theo Johnson, and it took 3-4 guys to take him down. You know what I mean? Like he's not, the slide, go out of bounds guy. Like, he is tough. He carries the ball. And like I said, I watched him versus Iowa, and Iowa was just bombing dudes on him, and he was, running with the ball, carrying dudes. Yet, as I mentioned, his 40 time 4.57. But guess what? All his combine stats, 98 percentile in the vert, right? What do you call it? 95% in the broad jump, 88% in the shuttle, 93% in the 10-yard sprint. Like, all his combine numbers off the charts. While he's probably a 3rd-round pick, like, he, to me, reminds me of Mark Andrews from Baltimore. Big, strong dude that can block, but he's got soft hands and can carry a load. Inline or split out. The only knock on him would be is from a blocking standpoint, he needs to get stronger lower body-wise. Okay. He's not used to taking on, Micah Parsons, or he's not used to taking on TJ Watt. He needs to be able to get stronger from a lower body perspective to take on defensive ends, because he doesn't really do that at Penn State very often.
Yeah. And here's a kid that if he's put in the right system, he could blossom and be a better NFL player production-wise than he was in college.
Yeah.
Hands down. Like I said, if we're looking for a comp, I'd take Mark Andrews from Baltimore.
Okay. All right, that's a solid tight end, right? I mean, he's not top tier with like the Kelseys and Gronks of the world, but he's right underneath it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I look at the NFL and I take Mark Andrews as the 5th best tight end in the league. Yeah. I don't like to throw these guys like, oh, he's going to be this, but there's nothing stopping this kid because he's fast. He's enormous, and he blew everyone away at the combine. Every single category, he crushed it. There's no reason why, he doesn't translate. His biggest thing is he didn't get enough opportunity. Like, they just don't throw him the ball enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's his numbers. First of all, he's from Canada, just in case anybody cares.
Yeah, there's a couple guys from Canada on this list tonight. It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, so he's a Canada boy, right? He's Canadian. 34 receptions for 341 yards, right? And you're like, really? You know what I mean? Like, they just don't throw him. They just don't throw him the ball enough. That, at the end of the day. But he's going to make a great pro.
But exactly, and like you said, I mean, if they have a good combine, this is where you try to weed that out, right? I mean, could just be a Penn State offense thing, and I don't really know how good the quarterback situation at Penn State was. It's always I always felt like is a little bit underwhelming for a team that's otherwise very good and talented.
Yep.
So interested to see what happens there.
And
Greg,
like
your next
Craig
dude is a
said,
Texas guy, Jatavian Sanders. Tell me about him. We've talked about Texas players a lot this year. I mean, in some cases, like 2 guys at each position.
Yeah, Sanders is a again. What's interesting? This is not the best tight end group. Probably like the 2021-22 were really good, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't the best group in the world, but there's a handful of guys that are good. Sanders is interesting because he looks like everybody else. They're all 6'4", 245 pounds. His speed is a 4.69. He's not as fast as Brock or Theo, but he's got good speed. I'm looking, I guess the interesting part is the blocking is not there in today's college tight end because they use them as wide receivers, right? So if you get a guy and you're like, okay, he's 245, I'm going to put 10 pounds, 15 pounds on the kid. They're not used to blocking. Like, let's say we have Bellinger, who we don't really know what he could do because we took him from a pass catching tight end who can block to a blocking tight end that once in a while catches the ball. So with Sanders, like, I think he's going to be a good tight end. He doesn't have the experience in line. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just not going to be the guy who goes out there and does a lot of dirty work, but he's got great straight speed, right? 4.69, great speed. He was 64% in the shuttle, which is a little on the slower side. It's okay. He does get open. Very reliable route runner. One thing that I noticed when I watched a little bit of the film, linebackers can't cover him, right? Because he's got good straight line speed. So when he's coming off the line, college linebackers, not pro linebackers, but college linebackers have trouble covering him, right?
Sure.
But the vertical stuff, is not great. He's a point A, point B straight line guy. But listen, for a guy who's not known for blocking, he gave up 3 sacks, which is one of the lower for a tight end that's going to get drafted. I have him pegged in the 4th round. He gave up 3 sacks, which is not great for the little amount of blocking he did. Right?
Yeah. That is a little tough. You'd expect it to be like, all right, can you just hold that fort down a little bit?
Yep. But I still think he's going to be a good pro tight end. Sure. I think with him, it's going to be what system does he go to? Because he's got great hands. He's got top 3 speed here in the draft class. All straight line stuff, right? He's not great at finding the soft spot as, let's say, Theo Johnson is.
I got you. It's funny we talk about the blocking thing. I mean, in your opinion, Craig, in truth, I mean, how important is the ability of the tight end to block for you? I mean, the one thing I definitely go to is like, look, if you're not the best blocker in the world, for me, fair enough. But can you just be like Kelsey and just hold it down? I mean, because I remember with sometimes they're not even trying, depending on who the tight end is. Like, it doesn't even look like they're giving an effort anymore, right? And like, you definitely can't have that. But it's also like, can you just hold down the 4? Like, don't give up a sack if you need to stay back and block.
Modern tight ends want to catch touchdowns. Modern tight ends are basically big wide receivers, right? Right. We've all kind of agreed there. Like, Bellinger was like, again, a pass catching tight end who could block, and then he beefed up, and they needed him to basically play right tackle for Neal. So when you think about these guys, they're not interested in blocking unless they have to be. And college likes to throw the ball. Truth, I think you would agree, wouldn't you, Truth? Like, these guys aren't asked to block. It's not their fault. They're not really asked to block very much.
Yeah, I think it's what's interesting there is the training of the development of tight ends now. I mean, a lot of the times it's like dudes that were good wide receivers in high school, like that's what they played in high school, and then in college it's like, all right, well, if this guy's a 0.1 second slower than this dude, then all right, he's going to play tight end then, right? And so they have more of a wide receiver, then beef up background, as opposed to 30 years ago where it was more of like they were probably tight ends through and through the whole way, like they were blocking originally in college. So I get what you're saying, Craig. It's just the nature of the game is changing a little bit.
I did forget to say when we were talking about Theo Johnson a second ago. I kind of used the comp for him. He was the Wisconsin tight end. He got drafted by Dallas, Jake Ferguson. So when I see Theo Johnson, he reminds me a lot of Jake Ferguson. Yeah, I'm just, I think he's got a lot of Jake Ferguson in him too, so some of these guys, yeah. Again, and like I said, like Mark Andrews, Jake Ferguson, like a lot of that type of typical. Jatavian Sanders is a little bit harder of a comp, like I said, just because I think it depends on what team he goes to, because he's got really good hands, but he's 6'4", 245. If they, like most of these guys, like Brock is going to go as a wide receiver. Theo is going to go probably blocking first, then receiving. Sanders could probably be more of a pass catching tight end first. I don't know if anyone's drafting him to be a blocker.
Sure. Well, all right. Well, what about the next dude? What about Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State?
He's actually my favorite.
Really? Above Bowers, or more like the guys after Bowers?
Like Bowers, you need to just take him out of the mix, because
we're not getting him. Let's just call it what it is.
Right? Not only are you not getting him, like everybody knows who Brock Bowers is, right? They've been talking about this dude for 2 years, right?
All right.
Sinnott is my favorite. He reminds me a lot of Zach Ertz, right? Like he's wearing a fullback number. He can block. He's sick. He's 6 foot. He's 6'4", 245, just like the rest of these guys, right? But he's an interesting cat. Catches really well in traffic. I'm looking for my notes on, right? Catches really well in traffic. He doesn't come from a stud program at Kansas State, right? Yeah. But he's the guy, Truth, he and Mike, he's the guy they depend on to bail the quarterback out. So, like, they're throwing to him in small windows. He's great after the catch for Yak. If you get the ball in his hands, 669 yards, almost 700 yards, averages 14 yards a catch, which is great. 6 TDs. I even saw him take a screen pass 35 yards. When's the last time you saw a tight end take a screen pass 35 yards?
Yeah, I mean, unless they have clear as day field ahead of them. Yeah, you rarely see it.
Yeah. So he reminds me a ton of Zach Ertz when he was, in his prime with the Eagles, right?
Yeah. By the way, Ertz, I hate the Eagles, but boy, he was a good tight end.
Yeah. So I find him, like I said, he's the same. All these guys, all the guys that I have, the only guy that's really tall is Theo Johnson at 6'6", 259. The rest of them are all exactly the same height and weight. But Sinnott I can't, maybe here's the other side of it. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. 2 years ago, he was the first tight end off the board. He went to Arizona. He came from Colorado State.
That was
Trey McBride?
McBride.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know McBride's had some injuries, right? And he's trying to get in the swing of things. But Ben Sinnott, and I also said this, if I go back to the show, I thought McBride reminded me of Zach Ertz. I think Sinnott's the same type of dude, right? Okay. Like, if you want to go old school, like he's Dallas Clark, old school, right? Truth, old, for Peyton Manning made a living with Dallas Clark. Kind of the same kind of guy. A little bit of a hybrid guy where he can block, play H-back. But this guy catches, not only does he catch the ball in traffic well, he can catch over the shoulder, which a lot of big muscle-bound tight ends cannot. So he's very, he can catch over the shoulder passes, good in, straight line speed. He was combine-wise all in the top. Shuttle, 10-yard, vert, broad jump, 3-cone, all at the top, right? He was all in the top 5 in all those categories. So, like, to me, he's like more athletic than Bellinger is. I think Bellinger is stronger, but a guy like Sinnott, I think gives you more pass catching ability because the guy, like I said, can catch in traffic. He's fast. You know, he goes over the middle. And he's a guy like Zach Ertz, which you'll use him to block, but because of his yards after the catch, you probably would use him more like a Kittle, more like a guy who could block, but also can catch passes. I think he's a 4th round pick guy. And then I think someone in mid 4th round is going to get a bonus with Sinnott.
That's what I see him going at 4th. And if the Giants didn't have all these guys they signed, he's the kind of guy that Giants would draft.
Right.
I can see that if they had a need for a tight end.
Like all these guys, truth, like the only guy is Brock that's going in the 1st round. There's no 2nd round picks in this. You know, maybe
no 2nd round picks, you think, or just nobody like else in the 1st?
Nobody in the 2nd.
Nobody in the 1st. Like no way in the 1st.
I don't see any of these guys. I could see a guy like Theo Johnson going in the 3rd only because of his size. He's 6'6", 260, right? But then, like at the end of the 3rd, more early 4, I can see Sinnott, Sanders, both.
A whole bunch of guys on day 3, and we got a whole bunch.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a possibility Sinnott could slip into the end of the 3rd. Like again, for the right type of audience, right? Or excuse me, the right type of franchise that wants a very active tight end. You know, Miami, the Raiders. You know what I'm saying? Like you just need an active team.
And also keep in mind, it's not just the lack of talent in this class; it's also the abundance of talent in other positions. Why these guys are going to go back in the draft and get picked on day 3s. You know,
100%. Truth, you just nailed that. That's a great point. Because the wide receiver class is so big and deep, you don't really need to reach for a pass catching tight end. You know, in the 2nd or 3rd round, Spartan, because you got wide receivers like lined up, ready to get drafted.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. What about Ohio State? Look, they're not a bad powerhouse when it comes to creating some decent tight ends here and there, right? So what about Chad Stover?
He's probably the most interesting one of all of them because, one, I usually love Ohio State tight ends. Cade Stover is interesting, 6'4", 250, just like the rest of them. Yeah. But he was a defensive player. So he
transitioned.
Yes. Yeah. So he's inexperienced at the position going from linebacker to defensive end to tight end, right? So he doesn't have the body of work or the experience these other cats do, right? Like a guy like Sanders has been playing tight end since he's a junior in high school. You know, Stover's been playing tight end for 2 years, right? Right. You know, came in as a linebacker, defensive end. But he's a great 3rd down guy. He definitely, I don't consider Stover super athletic, right?
By the way, that was a crappy offense. Like Ohio State's offense last year was awful.
Yep.
That was bad.
He's very physical after the catch. If you do get him the ball, he's very physical after the catch. He doesn't have the blocking skills. That's where the other guys have an advantage on him, right? He also doesn't have, because of the offense, as you just alluded to, the route running skills are okay, right?
Saw that issue with a lot of the dudes we're going over tonight.
Yep. I think a lot of it has to do with the offense. Again, here's a defensive guy you convert into offense. You know what I mean? He's trying to figure himself out. So he's not learning a route tree. You know what I mean? He's not spending a ton of time on that. His blocking's like, okay, right? I mean, but I think Stover he's a 5th round pick for me. And I still think he's got a pretty decent upside, because it could be where he's an undiscovered talent. Who knows? He might turn out to be, an amazing NFL tight end. I just don't see it because they converted him. So he's behind the 8 ball from an experience standpoint. But again, for a 3rd down tight end, like he's got good hands, speed's okay. I just find it interesting that, because he's a defensive player, he's physical. If you do get him the ball, he's not afraid to run a linebacker over.
Yeah, for sure.
So
not really much to see here with this dude overall. You wouldn't suspect that he becomes the kind of guy that breaks out unsuspectedly like Kittle.
Well, again,
we never know, but
there's not many Kittles out there, right? Like if you look at Stover's numbers, 41 catches for 576 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he averages 14 yards a catch. That's pretty good, right?
yeah.
I mean, all these guys' numbers are hovering around the same thing. Like, they don't have the body of work as Bowers, right? Because the guy was the guy for 2 years. But again, he's still on that crappy Ohio State offense. He still had 576 yards.
Yeah, that's
right?
not nothing.
So, again, the only two guys, Theo Johnson and Sinnott, potentially in the late third, early fourth. Sanders and definitely in the fourth. I think Stover is going to get pushed down maybe to the 5th round, in my opinion. Normally, Ohio State guys are thought of pretty highly. He had a great year, but comparing him to these other guys, like Theo Johnson's a little bit of an unknown,
Yeah.
but I think if you got him the ball, he's very unselfish, by the way. If you watch any interviews on Johnson, he's like, I'm just here for Penn State.
Good.
And to make the offense better. So Theo Johnson, I think, is kind of climbed up the board with his combine. I'm not killing Stover. I just he's not very dynamic.
No, I get that. You know, we see that a lot, right? If it's not like anything that's really truly wound you, yeah, I'm kind of with you in just terms of like, well, it's not really worthwhile, but we'll see. All right, those are Craig's guys, but obviously, you know, as we talk about, we'll continue to chime in. Eric All is the first one I want to talk about because it's interesting. He was at Michigan for a long time, and then he transferred to Iowa with the quarterback of Michigan. He is a pretty well-rounded tight end, and if I'm not mistaken, he was the team captain of Michigan in 2022 before he transferred. And then he went to Iowa, but the problem with Iowa is, I mean, their offense, if we're talking about Ohio State's offense being abysmal, I mean, that defense for Iowa dragged them to the Big Ten championship because that offense is incompetent. It was run by the coach's son. I don't know if you're aware of that. He was the offense coordinator. Iowa has produced Kittle, who went in the 5th round because he was poorly utilized. And that guy that just went to the Lions, who was
Sam Laporta,
and he was poorly utilized too.
Didn't Hawkinson come from Iowa too?
Hawkinson and then one other dude got drafted the same year from Iowa. Now, they were first-round picks, and they were more highly touted. But it's funny with Iowa, they produce all these tight ends, even though they're not really well utilized. Eric All was one of those dudes. He did not get worked in the system like he could have been. If you want a comparison, Eric Flowers. So I'm going to say that because it's more on the athletic side in terms of being more of a catching receiver. He's not a very good blocker, but you know what he does do well is, he's got great hands. He is a very good route runner. He's a smart dude, and he can dissect the defense pretty well. Even though he's not a great blocker, he's a willing blocker. Like, he will put his shoulder down, but again, he's going to stop Micah Parsons, probably not. And then the another major injury with this dude is the injuries have met, or con with him is the injuries messed him up. One of the things that led to the fallout of Michigan was, like, instead of getting a back surgery at Michigan, he went to Florida for it. That could very well be a huge hindrance for the dude. But otherwise, you got a pretty good athlete for the tight end position, similar to Evan Ingram. Do you agree with that, Truth?
Yeah, he's a solid player, and again, just like you said, he didn't get he was like the main cog in that machine at Iowa. So, like a lot of these tight ends, they would use more like a blocker,
right?
And so it's something.
Even though that wasn't his strong suit, you're right. It's like he was used as a blocker, but it's
right.
He's there to catch.
A lot of these guys could blossom in the NFL in the right system. They could find these kids and untap some talent that we're not seeing.
Yeah. So I would expect this dude to be a day 3 pick, no doubt whatsoever.
I got a quick question for you, real quick. Have we got confirmation about Waller? Is he staying? Is he not retiring, or has he not made up his mind yet?
Hasn't made up his mind yet, but based on the moves by the Giants lately, I'm almost going to guess that he is retiring.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Why would they make all these moves if they didn't have any information?
I don't know.
The guys that they signed are blocking tight ends, which leads me to believe that Bellinger is back in the pass catching role.
I hope he gets back out there. It was a shame to see him not really utilized too much last year.
Yes.
And he is good at those, like the Kevin Boss kind of routes, the shorter ones, right? I mean, we saw him in the goal. In the red zone, he's actually a pretty good threat.
And he's not bad about getting up the sidelines, right? We've seen him catch the ball and go up the sideline a couple
No,
times.
he can run. He can gain yards after the catch.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
he's
I
also
feel-
been on the show, so let's make sure to compliment him and don't say anything mean about him. If we say anything mean about him, we'll do it off camera.
No, nothing mean to say about him. The kid's a good player.
Right. Good player, good dude.
Yeah, and when we interviewed him 2 years ago, we were impressed with him. So I think everyone's on the same page that we'd like to see Bellinger get more catches, and the two guys that they just signed are definitely going to. Well, it seems that they would be more on the blocking role, which kind of alludes you to what Truth just said, that or Mike, what you just said about it's kind of alluding to what's the future is going to be for Waller.
Yeah. Yeah, I was ashamed to see Bellinger utilized a little bit less so. I mean, because at the end of 2022, he was looking good. Anyway, more to come on him. It's not the end of him, but we'll see what happens here with Waller, as he likely, I'm going to guess he's going to retire.
Okay.
Dallin Holker out of Colorado State's the next dude that I have. So funny because now Colorado State all of a sudden is like a tight end U, right? They produce Trey McBride, and they seem to have a steady flow of dudes coming from that program. So I don't know if they have a good tight end coach or what the case is, but a little bit of a different player than McBride, though. I mean, he's got great vertical, excellent breakaway ability despite his size, good yard after catch ability. And truly, if you watch the clips of the types of catches he's able to reel in, and the ball can be kind of all over the place around him. And he can make these crazy one-handed catches. He can, it's very incredible to see it because he's not even the best athlete in the world, but he has a wide range around him in which he can grab balls. So he has that specialty. Not the most explosive athlete, and he needs a little bit better of a body of framework to be able to execute. He does have some awkward movements, and I don't really know, what can necessarily be done about that, but a little bit too high on blocks, Craig, as you talk about with Theo Johnson and whatnot. But overall, he's still a pretty good player. I mean, he's pretty talented. I don't know, Truth, if you had any more thoughts on Holker.
No. I've seen him on a few film clips. I watched him. Very reliable hands, good route runner, like you said, and he's not that bad as a blocker in both run and pass.
No, he's pretty good.
He's a good, solid young player.
Yep.
I got him down as a 5th round projection. And,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking about too. 5th or 6th. I'll tell you who I really like though. This is the dude that I actually really thought was pretty damn talented. Jared Wiley out of TCU. Because now we're dealing with a little bit more of that Theo category. And as I was alluding to earlier, the dudes that I really love at tight end are the ones that are too big for corners. He's 6'6", so he's got that checked. And too fast for like a linebacker to cover. He runs at 4.62, which is pretty good. It's better than Gronk. It was better than Gronk when he ran his 40-yard dash, which means a lot because Gronk was a freak of nature athlete. And then if you watch his play, he's the one that has the most similar features to Gronk. Incredible hands, stays on his feet after first hit, which I love to see. I love to see that they're fighting for the extra yardage. He catches under traffic very well, which is critical. Obviously it's nice if a guy has like a wide range of catchability, but the one strong suit that Marvin Harrison Jr. has that's so special about him is the ability of the ball, is the ability to reel in the ball, even if he's well defended. And this guy probably does it better than all the dudes that I've been covering tonight. Good blocker, very athletic. The cons, 24. We've been dealing with a lot of that this year. A lot of 24, 25-year-olds. He gets flagged for he does get flagged for having bad yard after catch, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't see that. A little bit limited with the separation, needs to clean up the route running, but I really like this dude's body of work. They had an explosive offense at TCU.
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned Croc with this kid. He's got like long arms and legs like Croc had, and when he runs, it looks awkward almost to the extent, but he has good speed, so he catches defenses, linebackers by surprise with his speed on the field.
Yeah,
like you're saying. So he is a good player, good red zone target. That's what he was at TCU. So good player. Another one like a 5th round pick. That's what I have, Matt.
Yeah, but I really like this dude. Like I could totally see him exploding on the NFL scene. Next guy I have is Tanner McLaughlin out of Arizona. He actually reminds me the most of Kevin Boss. Like not only when you look at him, but also just kind of his body of work and his tight end skill set. He catches in traffic very well. He's a pretty good athlete. Perhaps like the best of this mix. Like he has the ability to turn and explode and execute speed, lateral as well as downfield. And he is actually a very good blocker, despite, his, I think he's a little bit smaller. Very good at catching those short yard passes. Those are kind of his specialty, which is obviously what we used Boss for back then. So a little bit similar there, but what he needs to work on is strength, which is good. You can work on that. Route runner, that's another one too. That one's come up a lot with the route running. And if these tight ends want to ball out at the next level, they got to clean that up.
Yeah, and
he's a Canadian too, Craig.
What I noticed about this kid, he was good catching the ball in traffic. Strong hands. So a good 50-50 tight end.
Absolutely. Jumps for it and makes a strong reach for that. We just lost
Craig. He's losing Craig, huh? What's going on with him?
And Craig's getting sick of us. Kevin was the boss back in the day. Darius, that was a dad joke.
Darius has been waiting to use that all day.
Darius, man, you've just been sitting there. Wait, I mean, by the way, hey, everybody, I want to do a quick shout out. Tudo, thanks for coming through. Darius, thank you for coming through. Mark, always appreciated. Jay, good crypto. What's up, man? I know Mark's out there. Mark B's out there. What's going on, guys? Appreciate all you guys coming through. That you've been waiting all day to use that, Darius. Love it, respect it. Hey, real quick, I'll go on to the next dude because he's very athletic, Jaheim Bell.
Yeah,
he's short. He's 6'2". He's a smaller dude.
He's more like a wide receiver playing tight end.
That was what I felt, and that's why I'm surprised. Like, why was he ever put at tight end in the first place? Because this probably isn't the best position for him. He should probably lose weight and play wide receiver.
Well, Spartan, look who Florida State had at the wide receiver position.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I would have gained 40 pounds. The hell am I talking about?
Wilson and Coleman.
Guys. Yeah, this poor guy. You know what? That's what a team should really do. Not pundit. Guy, this guy's. Yep. Darius, we're loving these jokes, man. It is the thing about you're probably right. He probably had no choice. He probably looked at his options and said, look, I can either put on weight and play tight end, or I stick down the wide receiver path. I'd have to look that up. I'd really have to look that up because that's a very interesting hypothesis.
Spartan, put the bottom one that Tudo just put up.
What we got?
Bottom one.
Stop using the local McDonald's guest Wi-Fi and buy your own internet service. Sorry, Craig has Walter Football. Craig has the Walter Football website open, and that's what keeps crashing his computer.
That's the first time I've ever seen him have problems.
Yeah, it's usually never him.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, I've had bad Wi-Fi.
Here's a kid I see going late.
I don't even know if he's going to get drafted. He does have.
He may not get drafted. You're right.
But like he might. I've never heard of this. He might convert from tight end to wide receiver. That might happen. Yeah. He loses 20 pounds. Poor guy. He's a great athlete, better athlete than I'll ever be. And here I am, like, he's got to lose weight if he wants to make it. Sitting here with love handles and cookie crumbs on my chest.
How big is he?
He's 6'2", 250 something. But if you watch him, Craig, the thing's weird. And Truth brought up a good point. Florida State has a ton of good wide receivers. We have a hypothesis that he may have. I don't know any better, but he may have transitioned to tight end because the wide receiver spots were taken. But if you watched him, he's a wide receiver through and through in terms of his abilities and strong suits.
Not a very good blocker, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, so I'll move on from this dude. Again, the blocker, the strength and physicality, it's not really there, but I mean, he's got wide receiver traits. You're right. Seventh round, if anything.
Yeah. See, now we'll go into the late round guys when we're getting to my guys.
This is where Truth's strong suits shine through. All these guys go to the Ravens. Everybody. AJ Barner, Michigan. All right, Michigan has had a lot of talent.
You know what's funny, guys? There are two of these five guys I have here I really like. And if the Giants really needed to look for a day trade tight end, I would love them to draft one of these guys, but probably not. But I like this kid out of Michigan, Barner. He kind of reminds me of Bellinger. He does a good blocker. He does good short intermediate routes. Gets very sure hands, good radius. Runs crisp routes. I like this kid. I know they had the other tight end on that team. They kind of use a 2 tight end system. And of course, what was the guy's name?
I'm looking it up now. It starts with a B. He's staying, right? Because he was the junior, right?
Yeah, I thought it was an S, like school something. Schoolmaker?
Schooner.
It's like 2 words. Right?
Yeah. They mostly they blocked, right? So this kid, I think he's NFL ready. He could definitely block. And I know the Giants already have guys they just signed who could block. So again, guys, more than likely the odds of Giants drafting a tight end is probably very low, extremely low. But we still have to talk about these kids. But I like them. Again, these are all day 3 picks. He'll probably go before anybody else I'm calling here. Probably a round 4 pick, Barter, and I think he's a good player. I think, again, the right team, he can work his way in and be a good player, just like what's his name did with Dallas. The kid that went to Dallas, he was really not looked upon offensively in college, but he went to the right offensive system and he blossomed as a rookie.
Yeah.
So there's no telling what these kids can do if they go to the right system. That's the key.
That definitely 100%. No, I couldn't agree more with that.
Loveland.
Who was it?
Colston Loveland.
Loveland. Okay.
Huh.
Any thoughts on this guy before you go to the next one?
No. I swear Schooner is the one that I remember. Shoemaker, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, that's how I thought.
Yeah.
He was last year though. He got drafted. He was last year's crop.
Oh boy.
That's right. He went to the Cowboys. Yeah.
Oh, that was a
Shoemaker
moment on my part.
Yeah, Shoemaker was in with Laporta and what do you call it from Notre Dame? Mayer. He was in that group.
Okay.
All right. What about the next dude? Chip Ryman out of Illinois.
Okay, here's a kid. I like this guy. You talk about Jared Wiley, who ran a 4.62. This kid ran 4.62. This kid ran a 4.65, and he's big kid, 6'6", 270, 275. Played in a team that's not known as a big powerhouse. Very deceptive speed off the line of scrimmage. He has a good route running, not abundant, but when he runs his routes, it's crisp. He's not going to get you vertical, but he's going to get you to move the chains. That's kind of what I like in my tight end. Who can move the chains for me, who can block for me, and catch the ball when he's got a body on him. That's the kind of tight end I like to have. I don't need a flashy guy. I really don't.
For sure.
And this guy I like. I think he's got a good catch radius. He just was not shown a lot on the media, on TV. But I think he could be a pretty good player. And again, it all depends where he goes or what kind of system he gets initiated to. So I see him as not a 6th-round pick, as a matter of fact.
Been talking about a lot of Illinois guys the last couple of years too, like just some of the schools that aren't really big powerhouses, but have produced some decent players as of late. I mean, he's one of them.
Yeah.
All right, what about the next guy? Similar situation, but Bevan Spanford.
And by the way, Truth, NFL Draft Buzz has Barner listed as the 8th best tight end in college.
Oh, the 8th best? Okay.
Yeah.
Back to Spanford out of Minnesota. First we had him as Maryland, but no, it's Minnesota, right?
Yeah, he's in Minnesota.
Gotcha. Tell me about him then, because Minnesota's also been producing some decent NFL players.
Yeah, he's not really an offensive weapon. He's a more of a garbage pail, blue collar kind of tight end. He's gonna block. He's gonna make the short passes, catch the short passes. Don't expect him to make some good over-the-shoulder catches in the seam routes, stuff like that. But, I got this guy going late. Like I have the remaining 3 guys going. possibly not drafted at all. So I see him as 6th or 7th round pick. This guy.
Wow. Oh yeah, he might not get drafted. I mean,
But he's
listen,
a big kid.
how many tight ends are typically drafted?
Well, I can tell you right now, off memory, it's not really one of those positions where you say, "Holy cow, what a great tight end class! We're going to have so many go off on day 1 and 2." And here you're going to see so many go off on day 3.
Yeah,
so many.
Well, last year's group was probably one of the best there was. There were just guys. I'm looking it up now, but because I'm having all sorts of Wi-Fi issues. But last year's group was pretty stellar. You know what I mean? Like I think there were 8 tight ends drafted last year. Couple of them, second round, third round. Yeah,
that's a heck of a lot in that position.
But I've got all sorts of crappy Wi-Fi going on. I'm running this off my phone now, so I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi.
No worries. We're coming towards the end here.
Yeah, so this is nothing that you should. Any Giant fan, just to say the Giants draft this kid, it's nothing special. Just that he's a tough kid, and again, late day 3 pick.
Well, what about the next guy, Trey Knox?
Yeah, he's a little bit undersized. He's the only undersized I picked at my top 5. He's about 6'3", 240. He's a good open field, as you would expect with his size. Kind of like a big wide receiver. Has good agility, good quickness, and he does get separation when he's being covered by a linebacker. Has very suitable hands. I wouldn't say great hands, but suitable hands. And has a little competitive edge. Like he'll stick his nose in there, block, but I wouldn't put him as an inline tight end. He'll probably, if he does get drafted, he'll probably be more in the slot.
Gotcha. Okay. Did he have experience playing different positions beforehand?
I didn't see any film on him playing any wide receiver. He did line up on the outside sometimes, and mostly he was in the slot.
Okay. All right, look, we're coming down to the wire here. I mean, the last guy to talk about is Isaac Rex, BYU. BYU football. I actually have nothing to say about them, to be honest with you. Whether or not they produce players or not. They've obviously had some guys, but, I'm assuming he's a 35-year-old Mormon, so tell me about him.
That was good, Spartan.
Thanks for laughing. Craig didn't break a smile, man. It's been tough getting him to laugh tonight.
It's because my Wi-Fi is like in the toilet.
That's because your internet history's in the toilet. No, I'm kidding.
Here's a kid again. Comes from BYU. He actually has very good hands. Balls thrown to him, he catches 95% of them. That's the ratio that he has for catching the ball thrown to him. The only thing is that he was not featured as a primary target there, like a lot of these tight ends we talked about tonight weren't. Good sized kid, 6'5", 250, average speed. He does a little bit of everything well. You wouldn't say, by what a great blocker, boy, what a great route runner. He does everything a little bit well, where a kid like this could stick on a team, be a surprise kid to make a roster, or at least make the practice squad. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This kid could even go undrafted, and that's based on, of course, like we said earlier, about the talent we have in other positions and a little bit of lack of talent in the tight end position.
So, overall, we talk about all these dudes that are about to, for the tight end position. I mean, what are the odds the Giants actually get one?
If I could put a percentage down, it'll be well under 10%.
Yeah, I'm feeling it's pretty low right now, unless they have some itch for some particular person.
Well, so what
two things. Oh, sorry, Truth. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because Craig mentioned it before, if Waller, Mike, you mentioned, if Waller is going to be retiring, it does raise the stakes and maybe the percentages, and then may go get tight end. Who knows? Late picks, you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, be interested to see what happens there, but I doubt it. But go ahead, Craig.
Just because we were talking about like tight ends being drafted and how many. Just think how good last year's class was. In the second round, Sam Laporta, Mike Mayer, Luke Musgrave, Luke Schoonmaker, who you were talking about, and Brenton Strange all went in the second round. Only Dalton Kincaid went in the first round to Buffalo. So in the first 2 rounds, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 tight ends went in the first 2 rounds last year, and then a couple more dropping down. I don't see that at all happening this year. I don't think there's a second round tight end on the board. So,
Right.
Each year it does swing on talent, from year to year, because last year and even the year before, with Ferguson and a couple of those guys, the last 2 years were really good for tight ends. The way it kind of looks to me for the Giants is actually kind of interesting, because think about this. First thing they do is they stock up on offensive linemen, right? And so if you stock up on offensive linemen, kind of you start leaning on, well, that means I don't have to draft as many or maybe not at all, right? Because I just put 4 linemen in the pipe, right? I just got myself I traded for a defensive end / linebacker, so I'm not going to spend money there, right? So you kind of start leaning on, and then you start saying, well, I just signed 2 tight ends, meaning Bellinger goes back to the pass catching role with 2 tight ends that we signed to block. So where does that leave you? That leaves you with 1 or 2 moves. Is I'm taking whatever I have left, moving up to get a quarterback, or I'm sitting tight and I'm going all offense. It just kind of leads you down that path of wide receiver, quarterback, and cornerback, because you're kind of addressing a lot of things in free agency. And if Waller retires, it seems like they're comfortable with it, because they just put 2 blocking tight ends in the pipeline, moving Bellinger back to where he was, right? Or, hey, why draft a bunch of guards? They signed, 4 of them, right? Or 3 of them, right? So if you read the tea leaves, it just looks like that quarterback and wide receiver are just something that are going to be addressed. And then potentially, if there's any draft picks left, you're looking at, at a cornerback, right? To put on the other side of Banks.
Yeah. I mean,
that's just what it looks like.
That's how it's shaking out. I'm with you.
You got to say that wide receiver, cornerback is the most important on the offensive side, and cornerback and safety is probably on the defensive side right now.
Yeah, and remember
what they did in free agency.
And they brought McLeod back, right?
Right.
And you got Pinnock, Belton, Banks. The corner or the defensive back room is a little thin right now. I'm sure they'll pick up some bodies, but the room's a little.
You don't want to get fleeced in the secondary. I mean, as bad as our running defense was last year, I'd rather have a bad running defense than a bad passing defense.
Well, and it's been noted pretty heavily that the difference between Wink and Conlon are Wink wants to stop the run, Conlon wants to rush the passer. I think that's why Burns became a top line choice for free agency.
Nice,
yeah, because I think they want to. Philosophy is we're going to rush the passer. This draft is based on offense from everything that you're looking happening, right? They're going to go back to let's do running back by committee. Hopefully we can pound the ball. But what are we doing on the wide receiver quarterback scenario?
Right. Well, anyway, guys, we came down to the wire here. Oh, go ahead, Truth. You got something to say before we go?
No, I'm just saying it's going to be a very interesting draft. It really is.
Can't wait. We're getting close. I'll be there, guys. I will be there while we are live at the draft show. And I will rep New York Giants Rush proudly. And I got to order something from the store, Craig. Because I got
let me know what you want. And, try to get some interviews out there, do some crazy stuff.
We'll do. And if anybody in the chat out there is going to be at the draft too, let me know. I mean, I know Detroit's not really a vacation destination, but they should be hosting the draft at pretty good quality there in downtown. So I'm
listen, for anyone who hasn't been to Detroit has come a long way.
Yeah, they're downtown. I mean, I don't know if you've had to go there. I know your daughter's at Michigan State, but I mean, Detroit is not what a lot of people imagine it to be, especially where the draft's going to be held.
Yeah, no, they've done a great job of making Detroit a hip, trendy city with a lot of new construction. That's why the NFL chose it there. And like I said, if you're going to the draft, hook up with Spartan and buy him a beer and his friends, and we'll connect.
Crypto, I'll reach out to you over Twitter. All right, man.
All right, gentlemen.
Sounds like Crypto's going to be there. Guys, thank you so much all for coming through. Appreciate
last
it. Tomorrow we
statement-
got New York Giants rush. What are we covering tomorrow, Craig?
Tomorrow we have on Ryan Dunleavy from the Post, our good friend.
Yeah.
We're gonna get his take on everybody that's been signed and why. We're gonna get his take on the Waller scenario because that's got to be addressed.
Yeah.
Now that we're doing all this tight end work, because I don't think the Giants draft a tight end, but we're gonna get Ryan Dunleavy since he's in the building, in the locker room, and he's probably, getting the temperature just like we always do. And by the way, good shout out to some of the people on Twitter last week, leading up to today, giving us props on absolutely nailing the offseason. It was a great compliment. Hope you guys all feel that way. Doing Patty Traina, doing, Dunleavy, doing, Paul Dottino, throwing Pugh in there. So hopefully you guys are appreciating the work that the crew is putting in. These guys do draft shows for you guys every week. So appreciate all the support for you guys.
Yep. Yeah, we've had Ryan on before. He was the first guest I ever interviewed. He's awesome. So, guys, appreciate you all. Got a couple more shows left. We got cornerbacks and safeties coming up. Stay tuned. Look forward to next week and look forward to the NFL draft. Take care, guys.
Yep, we will see you tomorrow night at 8:00. Be there. Tell a friend.
Peace, everybody.